We come from anywhere and can be anyone. Connected by a calling, a curiosity, a passion to solve the toughest problems using software. It's not about the credit, the glamour, the razzle-dazzle. It's about getting in flow and solving the problem. And we'll fail 1,000 times for that one success. Data is our lifeblood, and we won't stop until we create something elegant, even a little magical. A solution that uses technology to change the world. We're data nerds. Raise your hand if you're a data nerd and show everybody who's raising the bar.
Hello, data nerds, and welcome to day 2 of FutureStack. I hope you enjoyed all the amazing sessions yesterday. We shared some really exciting innovations happening within New Relic, including the launch of Pixie and New Relic Errors Inbox, and you got the chance to hear from customers and partners from all over the world. And while yesterday's sessions were incredible, the lineup for day 2 is going to be just as amazing. Before I talk too much about what to expect today, I also wanted to give you a sneak peek into a really incredible program we're initiating this year at FutureStack, the Data Nerd Awards. At New Relic, we strive to recognize and celebrate our customers who are pushing the boundaries of observability, instrumenting everything, connecting engineers to vital data, and simplifying software development and performance monitoring. This year's Data Nerd Award categories include DevOps Heroes, Data Creativity, and open source community leaders, among others. And the program is designed to recognize transformation, excellence, innovation, and impact. Collaboration is our key mantra for the Data Nerd Awards. And we want to celebrate our customer partnerships by recognizing data nerds at both the individual and organizational levels. Be sure to keep an eye on our Twitter handle to catch the winners of this year's Data Nerd Awards, who we'll announce throughout the event. In addition to bragging rights, the most important part, all winners will also receive a $500 donation to the charity of their choice, a personalized trophy, and New Relic branded swag. Thanks to all our nominees and incredible customers for inspiring us each day with their innovation and impact. Day 2 of FutureStack is going to be another incredible day full of amazing sessions. After today's keynotes, you can again choose your own observability adventure with a mix of short snackable sessions and hands-on workshops. With topics ranging from observability for startups to better understanding customer experience and everything in between, today's sessions will not disappoint. So get ready to level up as we kick things off with a Fireside Chat with New Relic executives Lou Cerny, Bill Staples, and Christy Friedrichs. Lou, Bill, Christy, over to you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for FutureStack. I'm Christy Friedrichs, New Relic's Chief Operating Officer, and I have the privilege of sitting down in person for the first time in well over a year with New Relic's founder and CEO, Lou Cerny, as well as our CEO-elect, Bill Staples. It is so wonderful to be in person with both of you, and I'd love to just give you big hugs, but that's going to have to wait till another time. Welcome. Today, we're going to talk about technology, innovation, and the future of observability. We're going to get to know a little bit more about Lou and Bill and their histories, and I expect we're going to uncover a lot of gems to help us level up our game. So we'll start with Lou. You've been a prolific inventor and innovator for your entire career. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the insight that led you to found Wiley Technology and your background before that.
Sure, Christy. Thanks. So I've had a love affair with software for pretty much my whole life, or since I got my first computer when I was 12 years old. Shortly after falling in love with writing and building software, I became captivated with the problem of trying to debug it or understand like those really hard to find problems, not that just happen locally on your desktop, but happen like in production when real people are using it at scale. And so I founded a company called Wiley Technology in 1998 to tackle that problem, and we made efforts to make that as easy for our customers to do. We didn't want to have to force people to manually instrument their code. And so that there was no category called APM at the time, but that's effectively what Wiley's product became as a category. And it was focused on Java. And it was a great first effort into the space. And you could argue that lessons learned from the first APM product, and the Wiley product was called Introscope, and that was invented in about 2000. Those insights kind of became foundation when I thought about starting New Relic after having departed Wiley and spent some time off. I thought, what if I were to revisit this, but in the age of the cloud and in the age of SaaS delivery, and in further simplifying it, and that was really the genesis of New Relic.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about when you decided to found New Relic? What were the critical engineering needs that that you were looking to solve, and how did the innovations at New Relic help solve those in a new way?
I'll tell you, the big inspiration for me was the first ideas for New Relic actually were in the summer of 2007. And many of you may remember that was a pretty important summer, because that was the summer the first iPhone came out. And I remember getting my first iPhone and being blown away by it. Bill and I were just talking about this yesterday. And what particularly amazed me was this was the very first phone that I'd ever seen, or anyone had ever seen, where you, the end customer, opened it up the box and provisioned and set up the phone yourself. Before that, every cell phone that ever existed had to be set up at the AT&T store or the Sprint store or the Verizon store. And they'd set it up for you and hand it over to you. They got to unwrap the box and set it up. And I thought to myself, think of all the engineering and design work that went into just the first 3 minutes of experience with the phone. You're going to use the phone for thousands of hours. But Apple obsessed on the first 3 minutes of experience with a brand new product, and what a first impression it made. And I thought, we need that kind of obsession on the first 5 minutes of experience with enterprise software. We shouldn't be having what's the equivalent of someone working behind the counter at a telephone store, setting up your software for you. That should be a joyful, self-guided experience that draws you into the product. And while that seems natural today in 2021, nobody was really doing that in 2008, particularly in and around our space, when I founded New Relic. And so I got to give credit to Apple, as so many great innovations should, for how they obsessed on the first 3 minutes of experience opening up that first iPhone.
You've often talked about the iPhone as an inspiration, and one of the things you've said is the iPhone was something nobody had thought of, but as soon as you had it, you realized you couldn't live without it. And I think that's how you approached a lot of your innovation at New Relic as well.
Yes.
And Bill, you have an exciting and impressive career as a technologist and business leader as well. So can you tell us a little bit about your background before you joined New Relic a little over a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been incredibly lucky. I originally anticipated I would be in a career around medicine, but computers had always been a hobby and a passion of mine. And as I finished up my undergraduate degree, I decided to pursue that with an internet startup company. That quickly led to, in a few years, an opportunity to work at Microsoft on their internet technologies. And I spent almost 20 years at Microsoft building internet and web technology for engineers. It was part of building out the .NET framework and Visual Studio tooling, and then Azure's public cloud services for developers. And again, it just was such an exciting time to be part of laying the foundation for cloud and serving an audience of developers and engineers who are transforming the world through software. I was then able to go to Adobe, and at Adobe ran a global engineering organization running the Experience Cloud. That's Adobe's offering for enterprise companies who, again, are serving marketers and other professionals, delivering experiences for consumers at scale. And that's what led me to New Relic, because both at Adobe and at Microsoft, New Relic was always insight. It was always an inspiration for how to build software experiences that serve engineers, made both my team at Adobe more successful, made our teams at Microsoft successful and inspired, and always a company that I had envied and wondered what it would be like to build the New Relic experience. So it's a privilege to be here, and a bit of a lifelong dream, you could say.
That's so great. Well, we're all very lucky that you chose to join us the beginning of last year, and it's been wonderful to have you, and you've had a huge impact. Can we shift gears a little and talk about your vision, your joint vision for the future of New Relic, observability? Bill, you've outlined a really compelling multi-year vision for where observability could go and New Relic's role in that space. Can you talk a little bit about that?
One of the keys, I think, to unlocking accelerated innovation, building better experiences for customers that connect with the customer and deliver value for the company being served, is to take a more data-driven approach to engineering. So many roles around the company have been transformed over the last several years by bringing more data into everyday work. And I think the power of telemetry, this instrument, the data that we collect in production that measures how well the software is performing, how well the infrastructure is performing, and then bringing those insights throughout the software lifecycle into how you plan as an engineering team, into how you code and where you spend your energy and time in both architecting, implementing and even fixing bugs, as well as being able to deploy software with more confidence and in a more controlled way, and then of course running and operating it through data-driven approaches is the key to building and running better software in the coming decade. And so New Relic's vision is really to unlock that potential, to make it possible to collect telemetry at scale without having to sample, without barriers to where you would instrument or where you would collect telemetry from all of the dependencies that you may be building on top of, and then being able in real time to understand that data as it flows in and make decisions throughout the software lifecycle that result ultimately in a better customer experience for the consumers that you serve, as well as a better life as an engineer.
So, and just to put a finer point on it, let's do a little from to. Where is observability used today in the software lifecycle? So I love the vision of it's used across the build and run lifecycle. But right now, where is it used today, and how does the life of an engineer improve when it's used in more of the lifecycle?
Yeah, well, if you think about that traditional software lifecycle, there's plan, build, deploy, and operate. And today, observability, including the New Relic One platform, is largely used in that operate phase. Post-production deployments, once the software is up and running at scale, we collect the telemetry on behalf of our customers and give them insights into where it may be failing or how it's performing. And really the ultimate unlock, I think, is to take that telemetry and those insights and feed it back into those other parts of the life cycle. Help you plan better, help you build better, help you deploy with more confidence, and of course, run and operate at scale with fewer firefights and reacting to failures.
That's great. And Lou, I'd love your thoughts on this and to hear about how you partnered with Bill to help define this vision.
Oh, I'm super excited, but I love the notion of, well, one way to think about it is we think we have the most active users in our competitive set, if not the most, perhaps, very, in the top 2 or 3 at a minimum. And our monthly active user counts in the hundreds of thousands, right? And there are 28 million professional developers in the world, growing rapidly, who are not using data about their software to make their software better. So that just feels like a vast opportunity to have more impact. Vast opportunity. Because my gut says there's probably only 1 million total engineers using any observability in a given month. I might be off, but I'm not off by much. So there's nearly 30x the impact we can have with this telemetry data just sitting there to be leveraged. So what an incredible opportunity in front of us, and I think really, Bill, you were the one who really surfaced this thought, and it immediately captured my attention. So we're excited about that. I mean, the other thing that I'm excited about is Pixie, and I can't not talk about that for a moment. You know, we just launched, made a major announcement that we're donating Pixie to CNCF as open source. That has received an incredibly positive response broadly throughout the developer community, including Amazon Web Services, and we've got Kelsey over at Google on the governance board. You know, this is a community effort, but you know, we made the Pixie acquisition, and Bill and I both believe that the thing we want to do with that was open source it. And this is magical software that reminds me of when I was talking about that iPhone moment. Mm-hmm. Pixie's like that iPhone moment, or like the first time you used New Relic for the very first time. Maybe 10 years ago when you first tried out New Relic and you're like, I didn't think that was possible, right? So Pixie's like that, but it's open source. And then what you're going to see at FutureStack is how beautifully that integrates with New Relic 1 to just light up an entire Kubernetes cluster in minutes and see things you didn't think were possible to see with so little effort. So I think the future is bright, and nothing gets me more excited than a killer demo. And if you haven't seen that demo, you got to see it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's great that it's open sourced. Let's talk a little bit more about open source, because open, build, and run have been themes throughout FutureStack. We just talked about build and run and the developer lifecycle. What's New Relic's commitment to open source, and why is it so important?
I like built in good.
Oh, look, you know, what Lou just described, this 30x impact we described, that he mentioned, is really an opportunity to not just build some great software, not just, you know, make our customers' lives better, but to really change our craft, to change the way that engineering is done in the industry. And there is no way, I believe, that a commercial company can do that without embracing open source. Open source is just a fundamental part of both creating software and consuming software. And so to reach, you know, to really have the impact we aspire to have, which is to change our craft, to make it possible for any engineer anywhere to build better software, open source is an integral part of our strategy. It started many years, of course, before I came to the company. But last year, we took a major step forward by announcing that we were open sourcing all of our agents, the language agents that we had invested in for more than a decade, really leading the APM category by instrumenting all of the common languages that developers use to build software, open sourcing all of them, as well as embracing and endorsing our support for open telemetry, which is emerging as an industry standard way for instrumenting languages. Of course, as well, as Lou mentioned, we announced a few weeks ago the donation of Pixie to the CNCF and the open source of that project as, again, another step to make the ability to instrument systems and to collect that telemetry at scale ubiquitous. We want that to be free and open and available to any engineer anywhere on any platform. And then, of course, we're excited here at FutureStack to not only further that mission, but announce our integration with OpenTelemetry, with Pixie, and other exciting systems that we'll be talking about, which will make the collection and the analysis and the insights from that data even more powerful than before.
That's great. Well, as technologists and strategists, I'd love to hear just some final thoughts on the future of observability, anything we haven't covered yet in our conversation, where the industry is headed, what's going to happen for engineers to make their work better, easier, and faster.
Well, one way to think about it is the last 15 months have been terrible with this pandemic, but heaven forbid, what if that had happened in, say, the late 80s, 35 years ago, instead of in 2020 and 21. I mean, there was no internet, there was no like software-driven world, and I don't know how anyone could have functioned without, like I just got, my vaccines, that was all software-driven, easy to do, and I provided an update on how I'm feeling after my second shot. All that, obviously you're ordering your groceries, you're communicating with your loved ones and your coworkers. Just software is so baked into every waking minute of our day. And that's only going to accelerate. And so to think that anything we can do to help software be better, we feel that's a noble mission. And so that's, we're nowhere done in our mission to help the world have better software.
Yeah, and it has been an incredibly difficult year plus. The thing that I've been amazed by as we've prepared for this conference is the incredible innovation that's coming out of New Relic despite that. And I think, as I reflected on that and life in general, sometimes the greatest sources of inspiration and creation come out of that crucible of difficult and difficult times. And I think as painful as it has been to be socially isolated, to work from home, to miss this connection that we feel here today, I'm excited for the future of software. I'm excited to hear your reactions to the announcements that we're going to share throughout this conference, because there's incredible innovation being unlocked at New Relic, and I can't wait to see how that helps you, our customers, unlock innovation for your customers going forward as well. Thank you for being a New Relic customer, and we hope you enjoy FutureStack. Back over to you, Christy.
All right, I'll close it out. Thanks to both of you for sharing your insights and for sharing a little bit about your backgrounds and certainly your partnership. It's been wonderful to share that with everyone here. I'm sure it'll help everyone level up. And thank you to the thousands of engineers, developers, IT leaders around the world who have joined us virtually for FutureStack. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Lou, Bill, and Christy. Now, I know I'm a little biased, but I'm always inspired when I hear you talk about the future of observability and New Relic's role in that journey. Our next speaker needs no introduction, but it is my job to introduce him, so here goes. He's an open source enthusiast and widely regarded as one of the most influential voices in technology and cloud computing. And his self-described focus is on building simple tools that make people smile. Please join me in welcoming Kelsey Hightower, Staff Developer Advocate for Google Cloud Platform.
Hello, I'm Kelsey Hightower. Today we're going to be talking about Pixie. If you've ever visited the Pixie website, you probably read it, instantly troubleshoot your Kubernetes applications. Now, if you're like me, you're wondering how it does that. So we're going to do a live demo today to try to walk through how everything works. First, let's dig into this a little bit. First, we need a Kubernetes cluster. So if you look over here, I have a simple Kubernetes cluster. And inside of that Kubernetes cluster, we're running a couple of applications. So I'm going to click on those workloads really quickly here. So what I did to set up this demo, I installed all the components for running Pixie itself. This is why you see things like Nats and Kelvin. But the thing we're going to be focused on today is the Pixie, this 12 server. You can see it here. And the 12 client. This is just a very simple web application that's running inside of my cluster. And there's a client that's making web requests to it. Now, when we think about instantly troubleshoot, that means we need some things like observability, logs, all kind of things. Let's take a peek at the application server first. Over here on GitHub, I have an application called 12. It's a super simple web app written in Golang. Let's look at the source code really quick. If I pop over to the main.go, let's bump up the font so we can see what's going on. If you look at the code, this is how most applications start out. I'm just using the standard library, basically to create a HTTP server. I support health checks. I support a version response. And if you were to hit this application on /, I'm just going to respond with the message, hello world, in the JSON struct. You'll notice one thing that's missing here. There's no observability code. I'm not exporting any metrics. I'm not doing any profiling. This is just a standard application. Typically, if you wanted those things, you might be interested in something like service mesh. Now, if you've never seen a service mesh, this one's called Istio. And the cool thing about Istio is that it does a good job of allowing you to add some sidecar proxies into your cluster. And what this will do is give you some observability without necessarily rewriting your code. Now, the drawback to this is that you actually need to install sidecars, one on the client side and one on the server side. So this could be a little bit of an additional overhead, but is one way to get some observability out of the box. The next thing I want to look at, though, is let's turn our sights to getting metrics. Another popular project that you'll typically find is something like Prometheus. Now, Prometheus is really good with collecting metrics from applications that support it. Now, if you want really deep insights, then you're going to probably have to instrument your code by importing the Prometheus library so that it can be scraped later on. And then if you want visualizations, another popular tool for doing that is something like Grafana. But remember what our ultimate goal was. Our goal was to instantly troubleshoot applications on Kubernetes. And we're going to try to do that by following some of the guidelines on the site. No instrumentation, no debug scripts, all within inside of Kubernetes. So the next thing we're going to do is just pop over to the Pixie Ui. Now that Pixie's installed in my cluster, I can visit the UI. You can actually see that this is the same cluster that we saw earlier. And what we're looking at now is the 3 namespaces that are there by default. The PL namespace, well, that's where Pixie is installed. And the default namespace, that's where my application is installed. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now, once we dive into this, you can actually see that Pixie was able to discover some of my services. It's able to do this by looking at the Kubernetes API, but you also notice something. It's already grabbing metrics. Now, the way it goes about doing this is that given the fact that all of these things end up flowing through the kernel one way or another, Pixie can aggregate all of this data and start to do this whole infrastructure as data thing where the data it collects, it can actually join it to the metadata that's being provided by Kubernetes. So when we dive into this, we already see that we get a little bit of information. If I click into the service, you'll notice you'll get some of the standard things you expect from most dashboards. We'll get things like HTTP response data. I also get a list of pods that are behind that service. If you scroll down, there'll be other information about things that are having slow requests. These are customized dashboards. This is just what comes out of the box. Now, if we click into the pod that's part of this service, here's what you'll see. We'll get a lot of that dashboard stuff that you typically see when you install something like Prometheus and Grafana, but we have it right here out of the box. Now, you see all the common things around HTTP and latency. Of course, you're going to get things like CPU utilization. But the other feature that I like, especially when I'm deploying containers that I didn't build, you can actually click in here and actually see the command that's used inside of that container. This is really helpful to prevent you from going and looking for the Docker file to see how things are configured, or maybe even a Kubernetes manifest. This is a shortcut on doing that. If I scroll down, we'll see even more information, things like memory usage and additional things about inbound traffic coming into this pod. Now, this is when Pixie really starts to shine. If you look at this, you can see that it automatically discovered that the 12 client is actually making requests to the 12 server. And if you notice here, it has a remote address, and it can actually look at things around latency because it's always sampling traffic and data within the cluster. Now, of course, if I click into this particular application, we'll see something similar. Now, this isn't an HTTP service, so we won't have any HTTP data here. It's just a client, so it's only making requests on the outbound. But all the other information, like CPU usage, things in the process list, all those things are still valid. Now, when I scroll down, you'll also see something else that's super interesting. You'll see things in like a performance graph. Now, I wrote this code, so I kind of pretty much know how it works. There's not much happening here. There's some runtime libraries, but everything is in a standard library. Let's say I was using a Go framework on the other hand. Typically, you'll see that show up here. So this is going to be very similar data that you see with the profiler. Pixie's actually profiling this application in the background without me doing any additional things in my code. Now I got time to show you one more thing, and we're going to pop over to more detailed HTTP data. So over here in the corner, what you're looking at is a bunch of Pixie scripts. We've been looking at a few of them so far. When we clicked around the UI, we landed with services, with pods, and now we just want to pop over to HTTP data. So I'm going to click in there. Now, what you're going to see here is a bunch of data about our application. Now, it's sampling HTTP traffic and really all of the network traffic that's flowing through our cluster. But this particular Pixie scripts aggregates and formats some of that HTTP data so that I can actually view it here either on the command line or right here in the console. So what we're going to do now is going to dig in a little bit and see if we can find some of the data that we were just pushing around through our 12 server to that 12 client. So there's a huge amount of data here. So what we're going to try to do is filter some of this out or sort some of this thing so I can make it a little bit easier to find. So here I'm just going to sort the pods, and you'll see here that we're getting all of these entries for things in that Pixie Labs namespace. And this is a bunch of time series data. Now you could pipe this data somewhere. You don't necessarily have to do what I'm doing here, but I'm just showing you the vast amount of data that's typically collected inside of a Pixie cluster. Now we're inside of some of the data collected for the 12 server. So if you go over here, we can actually click through and you can see there's a bunch of data here. You're going to get things like headers, the response body, the response code. So if you were working on an application and things weren't quite working right, you don't have to go back to the application and start adding print statements or anything like that. You'll see out of the box that you're going to have a bunch of data. So if we were to click into this, notice here that we can see the remote address. That's that 12 client pod. And if I go down here, we can see the headers that are being sent in the request. We can see the method, and we can see some other things like the response header. And also look here, we can see that response body that's coming back. So far, it looks like Pixie's kind of living up to its promise. Once you install Pixie, it's able to gather a bunch of data from Kubernetes, the kernel, and aggregate it into all of these views, and we can use these Pixie scripts to navigate around it. Based on what I'm seeing here, I would say that Pixie is definitely living up to its promise of giving you the tools necessary to instantly debug your applications in Kubernetes. With that, I'd like to end my part of the presentation. Back to you all.
When we launched New Relic 1 last summer, we turned the world of enterprise software on its head with our free tier. The free tier gives you 100 gigs of data ingest every month and one full stack observability license. And it's totally free, forever. The idea behind this is simple. We believe observability should be accessible to all engineers. Here to share more about our vision and programs for Observability for All is Manav Khurana, SVP and Product GM of Customer Adoption Platform at New Relic.
Thanks, Seema. Observability for all. That's a core principle which guides nearly every decision for me and my team every day. Over the past year, you may have noticed some major changes to New Relic in terms of the licensing, the capabilities you can access, and pricing. All of those changes have been about ensuring that you and every engineer in the world has access to the best observability tooling, regardless of where you work. Whether you're an engineer at a Fortune 500 company, a brand new founder with a dream and a repo, part of a nonprofit trying to make the world a better place, or a student at a code camp or in a computer science program. Our goal is to make sure you can use New Relic to better understand how your software is running and being used by your customers. without ever worrying about getting access to the right type of license or how much it costs. Along those lines, as of July last year, you and every engineer in the world has access to the most generous free tier in the SaaS observability space with New Relic. When you sign up for a New Relic account without ever adding a credit card, you as the first user get full and free access to all of the features of the platform and up to 100 gigabytes a month for all your metrics, events, logs, and traces. That's not just a free trial that you have just for a week or a month or a year. That free tier never expires. The whole platform is available for you as long as you're using New Relic. In addition, you can now use Pixie, which is open source, to help you debug your Kubernetes environments with minimal friction, zero instrumentation, and obviously no cost. All of this has resulted in more of you, developers and ops engineers, being able to level up your observability practices and spend less time worrying about your tooling. Now, in October last year, in 2020, through newrelic.org's Observability for Good program, all of you who work for NGOs, nonprofits, charities around the world, you can now get a significantly expanded version of the free tier along with additional supports and services. Over 5,500 of nonprofits, NGOs, and charities are already using New Relic through this program. In fact, they're analyzing over 340 terabytes of data per month of metrics, events, logs, and data and traces to make sure their apps and systems are performing and they're having the maximum positive impact. If any of you watching this event work at a nonprofit or an NGO, please be sure to take advantage of this program so you can spend less time on tooling and less effort on tooling and more on doing good in the world. Today, I'm excited to announce a new program to help students develop their observability skills and grow their careers. To tell you more, please let me pass it to my colleague Jamaya Syas, who is the Principal Product Manager for Developer Advocacy. Jamaya, over to you.
Thanks, Manav. When we first set out to create New Relic One, we had the idea of observability for all. And when we say for all, we mean for all. And that includes early career engineers, students, bootcamp students, and people that are looking to pivot their careers into engineering, and educators. And today I'm so excited to announce the New Relic Student Edition. Technology innovations are moving fast, but so are the growing gaps to access them. The New Relic Student Edition aims to bridge early career developers to modern technology. While knowledge learned in courses provides the foundation, gaining hands-on experience in building software is key. And access to real-world tools make a candidate even more competitive in the market. The New Relic Student Edition provides the future generations of software developers access to the best-in-class observability platform for free, including 3 full users, 500 gigabytes of data ingest per month, and tons of training and support for free. We'll also give you access to all of our open source tools and certifications to validate your expertise. And because we're committed to the open source, we're super excited to announce that the Student Edition is offered exclusively through the GitHub Student Developer Pack. We believe that our mission to help all engineers in all stages of their careers are aligned. And I'm happy to welcome to the stage Sana Hussein, the Senior Partnership Manager at GitHub, to join me and speak about what they're doing with the Github Education program. Hi, Sana. Thanks for joining us today at FutureStack. I'd love to hear more about what GitHub's doing with student engineers.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here today and very, very excited to welcome New Relic to the Student Developer Pack. So why does GitHub invest in student engineers? Student developers are the future of software development, and software is at the heart of everything that happens in the world. Our mission at GitHub is to accelerate human progress through developer collaboration. And it is imperative that students have tools they need to progress in a positive way to make software that is inclusive, collaborative, and human-focused. Github Education was founded in 2011 on the very simple principle that student developers are special. They don't have access to resources. They want to learn with the best industry tools, and they are eager to make a portfolio to show to their employers. There's no substitute for hands-on experience, but for most students, real-world tools can be quite cost prohibitive. That's why we created the GitHub Student Developer Pack with our partners to give students free access to the absolute best developer tools in one place so they can learn by doing. We are so excited to have New Relic join the Student Developer Pack and to be a part of this story.
I'm so excited that we're joining the Student Developer Pack. It's one of the first things that I started working on when I joined New Relic. Knowing the impact that GitHub has made on me and my career, being a self-taught engineer and using GitHub for its open source resources and learning was truly a blessing for me as I was starting my journey. And I'm looking forward to continuing that or being able to create that same experience for the students that are out there. And I'm really interested in hearing about the impact that you've been seeing from GitHub with the Student Developer Pack.
Thank you so much. Awesome question. So over about 3 million students use GitHub Education. And the Student Developer Pack is the gateway to GitHub Education. It gives students free access to the best developer tools that are used in the industry, thanks to our partners. Now, there are so many incredible inspirational stories of the impact we've seen from the Student Developer Pack. But I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorites, which honestly makes me chuckle a bit. It's the story of Ben Sassoon, who is a 21-year-old computer science student who in his final year at university had this brilliant idea to curb pandemic-related panic buying ever since he found out that the average user has 500% more toilet paper than they need. Thanks to the tools he used from the Student Developer Pack, within one day, which is just mind-blowing, he was able to create How Much Toilet Paper, an online tool that calculates toilet paper usage. The site reached 1 million users globally within 5 days, and today, over 3 million users have used it to calculate how much toilet paper they need to have on hand. The site gained global attention from media outlets since its creation in March 2020 and has been featured on some of the world's most prominent media outlets. I think it's safe to say that this experience has changed his life. And this is just one of the many incredible stories we hear of the Student Developer Pack's impact on student developers. I'll also say that, now more than ever, as communities adjust to new routines and to new normals, students across the globe continue to create innovative solutions to solve problems they are facing, to solve problems their communities are facing. And they're using the tools in the Student Developer Pack to make all that happen. We are so happy and so excited to have New Relic join the Student Developer Pack and cannot wait to hear the stories from students who use this incredible tool.
Wow. Thank you for sharing Ben's amazing story. It highlights what's possible when you have access to the right tools, especially in 24 hours. Like, that's such a small amount of time to innovate and create something that's impacted the world that it has. Thank you so much, Sana, for joining us here at FutureStack, and to GitHub for helping us enable the future of software developers by offering or giving them access to real world tools. I'm sure that we can both talk about the importance of students having access to these real world tools or to modern software, but I'd love for you all to hear from a student directly and hear about how she's been able to use New Relic through the GitHub Student Developer Pack. So I'm excited to introduce Emily Chen, that's going to join us and talk to us about her experience.
Hi, my name is Emily Chen, and I'm a junior at Panther Creek High School. I'm a student developer at Bit Project, and I'm a huge fan of what New Relic is doing to make DevOps tooling accessible to everyone. Through the student edition of New Relic, I've been able to work collaboratively with other students part of Bit Project to gain deeper visibility into our applications. We recently instrumented our open source GitHub bot, Counselor Bot, with New Relic. With logs, infrastructure, and metrics, we have been able to figure out what is going wrong faster and keep things up and running. With additional resources like the Error and Prod workshop, New Relic is making observability and DevOps more accessible to students and folks that are new in their developer journey, like me. I'm super excited about the New Relic Student Edition. If you're a student, you can sign up for the Student Pack today. Thanks, Jamaya and Sana, and back to you, Manav.
Wow. Thanks for all your hard work on this program, Jamaya. I'm excited to see the creativity as the next generation of builders adopt data-driven engineering practices. Now, it won't be a real user conference without a one more thing. You see, we've always had a soft spot for startups. Many of us have been a part of that journey ourselves and know how important it is to focus all your energy and money on your core mission and your core software. At the same time, you need the right observability tooling so you can ship great software and manage it as you scale, just like a team at a larger company. With New Relic's free tier available now, every startup can follow data-driven engineering practices from day one without paying for New Relic. You don't need to set up and maintain different tools in order to get a full picture of your entire software stack. As you scale, you only pay for the data and users you add above the free tier each month. In June, in just a few weeks, we'll be launching a new startup offer. It will be first available for those of you who are already a part of the AWS Activate program. This offer makes New Relic even better for startups with exclusive credits, discounts, and training, all so that you can scale your observability practice and your software with New Relic without ever worrying about your tooling costs. If you're interested, please sign up for early access through the link you see on the screen right now. We'll get in touch with you prior to launch. Put together, the free tier, the Observability for Good program, the student program, and the startup program are all about making sure you have access to the best observability tools you need for building and scaling your software, regardless of where you work. That's observability for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Manav, Jamaya, Sana, and Emily. I love seeing the commitment from the team to bring observability to nonprofits, students, and startups. Let's be honest, production systems run better when they're monitored with New Relic. And in the past few months, we've launched some exciting new innovations to help our customers get better visibility into their end-to-end systems. Everything from log-level detail to AI-optimized workflows. We're also deepening our partnerships with cloud vendors, so our users have more seamless integrations between the services they use in New Relic. Here to show us how to run an application instrumented with New Relic in Microsoft Azure is Kavita Gowda, Senior PM for Azure Kubernetes Services.
Hello, everyone. This is Kavita Gowda, Product Management Leader at Microsoft, working for Azure Kubernetes Services and Azure Red Hat OpenShift Kubernetes Services. I'm here with you to talk about the advantages of New Relic and the fantastic full observability model they provide to you on Azure. You can see that the microservices has become the next stepping stone for cloud native applications. And microservices helps us with the scalability and also a better dynamic efficiency with respect to CI/CD. However, that's not an easy go. It's not easy to just go ahead with microservices and containers, and it brings huge amount of challenges. One of the major challenges that you see with microservices is the observability. The scale that you provide and the stages at which you implement it, you need a better observability. You need better debugging. You need this one-stop place to look at all your application all the way through, all the services that you use. And also you need to have the data for optimizing. This is exactly what New Relic provides for us. It provides this full stack observability end-to-end on Azure for you to enable a microservices and cloud native applications on Azure. So where does the integration start on Azure? And I'm really happy to see the integrations that New Relic has done on Azure. They have a very good set of suites that they integrate with, namely anything that, if you want to boil it down, namely anything that the developers want today on Azure, they have the plugin or the integrations to that. I'm happy to report that we'll continue to work continuously with New Relic and bring in more integrations for Azure. let's go into demo. Let's see things in action. And we are going to take a eShop application, which has multiple microservices with its own database accesses, and see that end-to-end visibility and observability into the application, including the infrastructure to your tracing, as well as your the transaction details, all the way until your SQL queries from your API. And I think that helps any developer, any infrastructure operator, especially on Kubernetes, to have this good view end-to-end to enable the next generation cloud native services on Azure. So we are now at New Relic workload view for my workload. You can see that, and this is what I've installed in my workload. That's the order application, or the eShop.NET demo application that we have. And you can see here that you see the entire view of all the services that you have used on Azure, all at one place, as you can see here. So you can see the containers we have been using, the network security rules, the storage accounts, subscription, all the details up here. So once you have, and you can further drill down into each one of these applications or each one of these services and know more. Today, what we're going to do, we're going to look just into the Kubernetes cluster. We'll go through the pods. We go through the end-to-end, the traceability of the API and the golden metrics that's associated with each web API. We'll take a look at that. Let's just go and filter based on Kubernetes. So you can always filter whatever you like up here, right? So I'm just going to now go and look at my cluster, what cluster I have. And you get your tile, and if you hover over it, you see the eShop. And so let's get into it and start looking at all the pods and containers running on this. It's coming up. So you have this beautiful graphic view here, which showcases all the running pods. So you can also go and look into, I think, in the pending and alerting stage and other things that you have. And you have the nodes. So it's just like, it's a 4-node cluster. And it talks about, as you can see, the red ones are critical. And then it shows warning, the CPU, memory, and then the storage. So you can see here as the CPU, it shows about memory and the storage and talks about the pod. So it's all in a beautiful graphical view, right? So you, at this one point, you get to see if you have any issues on your cluster in terms of what pod's running, what's not running, pending, not pending. And at the same time, what is your network node capabilities look like with the CPU, memory, and anything critical you need to know at this point. And now from here, you can go in multiple directions. What I'm going to do is that we just made a changes to our order API service. And I'm going to check if the order API service, I'm going to filter out one of this and going to check further how it's functioning. And I'm also going to trace all of its transactions and all the other application that's talking through it and see if everything right. Let's search now on order API. So the filter actually is a very good mechanism to go and filter. And so you can always go hover over each one of those tiles you had there. I would just now pick my deployment eShop ordering API. And you get it and you get filtered. So click on that and let's keep rolling. So when you click on it, as you can see here, it also provides a beautiful view of, you have one is the infrastructure view here about your infrastructure resources such as CPU and memory. And you can also now see your transaction view, your web transaction view, which is more related to the developers who are developing this API. So now they can look what time it took their services, and if they have to trace and debug, they can debug. And for Kubernetes operator and others, they can take a look much more into the infrastructure, memory and CPU usage, and multiple others you can see in other places. Let's go and as a developer and see, I want to trace this application and want to make sure if there's any logs or errors or issues that has arisen in serving the ordering API or ordering requests. So what you can do, you can just click on trace this application. So once you click on trace this application, it should bring up the groups of, first, it will bring up what transaction was initiated by the order API and what other APIs are calling the ordering API. And then you can further drill down from here. It has all this beautiful information, count, duration, errors, and you can further drill down on all of these. So let's say that we are, let's see the app service, web SPA, the web service basically, what does that call looks like and how much time it took, because this calls the order API as well. Let's see how this transaction is working. And you can further look into it. Should provide us more details on the transaction time taken, any errors in the process, and further drill down of what are the entities involved or what are the other API services called. So you can see that up here is that it has made these calls. And if you can further click on it, you will see, as you can see, that it has 3 entities that it used. So the app service, the gateway, and then the ordering API. And in the ordering API, now you can further drill down. Isn't that amazing? So you further drill down, you get to see this. You can go until the SQL query that you have used and have a look at it and also know how much time the SQL query took. And I think this is very, very helpful when you have databases and you can trace your capabilities, and it helps in your performance, in your observability, in your debugging capabilities, and in also improving your scaling and performances as well. This is a great view where you can go look at your query and take a look at how much time it took, what was the throughput, all the standard information that's required for you guys to debug further and have this complete end-to-end full observability view. So this view of New Relic on Azure is going to help you work and bring more of your workload and have this one view or one vision across all your workloads wherever it is. Thanks for joining me in showcasing New Relic's full stack observability on Azure and on AKS. I hope you start clicking. Enjoy.
Thanks, Kavita. I'm looking forward to helping our joint customers deploy, run, and optimize their Azure-hosted applications. I'd like to shift gears and talk about another topic, artificial intelligence. Here to share more about New Relic's exciting AI ops capabilities and how they help on-call teams more easily operate their complex systems is Nate Heinrich, Principal Product Manager at New Relic.
Thanks, Seema. That's right. Today's teams of developers, engineers, and SREs are responsible for building and running systems that are doing amazing things, but are more complex than ever. That's why it's so important that your teams have the tools and assistance they need to respond quickly and effectively when incidents do occur. This is where AIOps can help. Today, we're announcing limited availability of a major update to New Relic's anomaly detection capabilities. Anomaly detection on everything. Applications, hosts, mobile, browser, lookout views, workloads, custom NRQL, you name it. The anomalies are surfaced across New Relic One in activity streams, and with an overview of all anomalies within Alerts and AI, you have real-time automatic analysis at your fingertips, so you can find and understand problems before they become full-blown incidents. But what if an incident has already occurred? With alerts firing across multiple tools, diagnosing the issue and determining root cause can feel like finding a needle in a haystack. Taking a source-agnostic approach, New Relic Applied Intelligence reduces alert noise to help you find that needle by correlating related incidents into one actionable issue, regardless of whether those alerts originated in New Relic, PagerDuty, Grafana, or anywhere else. With multiple incidents grouped into one issue, we apply machine learning to help you assess overall impact by surfacing related components and affected entities. And today we're rolling out a brand new way of visualizing impacted entities and their relationships, issue maps, allowing you to quickly understand the impacted area, how services communicate, and what other areas may potentially be affected. To help you diagnose the issue as quickly as possible, Applied Intelligence provides automatic root cause analysis showing you the most likely causes, including related deployments, relevant error logs, and signal attributes to investigate. And as of today, we're also surfacing relevant dashboards. You can dig into individual incidents, so essentially the symptoms of the issue, with New Relic, and New Relic will perform automatic analysis on those specific signals. As of today, this includes data store analysis with links to problematic queries, error analysis with links to code-level stack traces, and external service call analysis so you can diagnose issues quickly. With root cause identified for us, we've saved time and effort. To speed up mitigation, we use machine learning to suggest who in your company is best equipped to respond so you can quickly route incidents to the right people. Knowing it's a waste of time to be jumping in and out of different tools, we meet you where you're already working with integrations into tools like PagerDuty, ServiceNow, and more.
Thanks, Nate. Our last keynote speaker today is going to highlight some of the amazing innovations in our log management capabilities over the last few months. Our goal is nothing short of in-context and correlated log data at massive scale at an incredibly affordable price point. Julian Guica is the product GM and principal software engineer in our logs group, and he'll show us how. Julian, take us home.
Thanks, Seema. All right, let's talk about logs. So I am just really excited to be here today. First of all, because I'm out of the house, and that's kind of exciting for me. But secondly, because the last time I was at FutureStack was FutureStack 19 when we announced the launch of New Relic logs. And it has just been an incredible journey since then. In the last 12 months alone, we have had a 700% increase in the accounts sending us log data. We've had a 500% increase in the volume of log data being sent. It's been so wildly successful that 1 in every 2 accounts sending data to New Relic is now sending log data. That's amazing. It's just easier than ever before for customers to start sending logs. And a lot of this is thanks to this world-class free tier, 100 gigs a month. No one in the industry has that kind of free tier. So what have we been doing over the last 18 months since I was last on stage? We now have more ways than ever to send log data. When we first launched, we supported FluentD, FluentBit, and Logstash. Since then, there's just so many different ways of being able to onboard and send your own data. We support Syslog, Heroku, Windows Event Logs, AWS CloudWatch, S3, Lambda, Vector, Firehose, Fastly, just so many different ways. There's way more. That's just what's coming off the top of my head right now. My favorite is that we're actually baked into the New Relic infrastructure agent. So it's a single binary for you to go and install, and that gives you all of your infrastructure telemetry data, as well as bringing all of that logs data as well. What's great here is that you get logs in context, and we have been really busy improving the logs in context experience. You know, it's attached into APM with distributed traces and errors, but also into Kubernetes, into infrastructure, and into Lambda. And we're always planning on contributing more and more in that in-context experience. Find out the why from your application or from your host, and with a single click, find out that detailed log analysis. We've been really scaling to the moon over the last couple months. New Relic has always been fantastic at just accepting log data and accepting huge volumes of data. But for me, this is something that I find really pretty heartwarming. A couple months ago, a customer came and onboarded themselves. So, didn't pick up the phone, didn't talk to support, didn't do anything. They just started sending data. And they were able to onboard themselves to 80 terabytes a day. What was pretty extraordinary here is we didn't even notice. And I don't care who you are, 80 terabytes is huge. That's a crazy amount of data. We do have customers sending way more than that, but for them to be able to do that themselves without talking to anyone, love it. It's so good. And lastly, we've been busy toiling away at new features. So we've just launched a UI revamp. We've got data petitions coming out the door, and my favorite new feature is log patterns, leveraging machine learning to surface insights about your log data. But don't just take my word for it. One of my favorite things is that we collect in-product feedback. So Within New Relic logs, customers can go and leave comments. And within the last month, unprompted, these are some of the comments our customers left behind. I love New Relic logs. The logs UI is an amazing feature. It's just awesome. And log querying is awesome. My team members are blown away by how fast it is. And that, to me, really just speaks to the value of what we're building here. It speaks to the tenets of the product that we want to build. We want it to be fast, we want it to be in context, and we want it to be affordable. Fast because we're built on top of NRDB. Nobody else out there in the market has anything like it. We are unique, and it is lightning fast. In context, where it's a single click for you to go and see the what of what's happening within your application to the why of all of the logs. And then from the logs, go back over from APM into the logging into infrastructure. And affordable. At 25 cents a gig for a month's retention, and that's where we begin, why wouldn't you be sending log data over? Okay, so I mentioned this customer sending 80 terabytes a day. That's a goodly amount of log data. How do you make sure that you're getting value out of the logs that you're sending? And that's where log patterns comes in. I really want to show you a demo. This feature makes me really excited. Okay, so we just heard about a customer that was sending 80 terabytes a day. That's a ton of log data. But how do you make sure you're getting the most out of the logs that you're sending? Here's where log patterns comes in. Let's go into a demo and have a look. So log patterns allows you to, at a glance, see all of the different clusters of logs that you're sending. We leverage machine learning that analyzes all of your log data and forms these groupings. So with a single look and a single click, you can see the top kinds of data that you're sending over. When we first baited this feature, one of our customers discovered they were sending one log line over and over and over again and had no metadata. It wasn't doing anything for them. It was just taking up space. By using log patterns, they could identify that, set up a filter to drop it, and save 30% of their ingestion. Isn't that amazing? Now, for me, another really cool thing about log patterns is it shows you the logs that don't fall into one of these clusters. So I can go and see these one-off errors, and because all of your data is together in New Relic, I can see it in the logs, I can see the sequence of events that led to that error, and have a look, side by side, pull up the infrastructure telemetry, pull up the APM telemetry, all at a single click. So we just saw log patterns. That's shipped, that's available to everyone. That's really cool. Let's talk about what's coming next. So over in Logsland, we really like listening to customers and getting customer feedback, and we've heard you. So the first thing is we're going to be embracing open telemetry. Open telemetry has just hit 1.0. But over the next couple of months, it's going to be improving, supporting metrics, and eventually adding log support, and we want to be there along for that ride. Along with that, we want to have more logs in context within everything in New Relic. If you have that telemetry data, we want to make it a single click for you to go and see all of the logs, find out the why. What is that sequencing to see what happened? One of the biggest feature requests that we've seen over the last 18 months is adding NRQL into the logs UI. All of your data is in NRDB, so why not natively expose that natural query language? One query language to rule it all. I'm really excited for that feature coming out. And we're always going to be investing in more ways to ship data. We're building out HTTP drains at the moment, which is going to open the doors for Google Cloud support, for Azure support, so many more ways of sending data over. And lastly, we're going to be embracing and publishing our own internal New Relic log standards to the world. We want you to know exactly how to make the most out of your logs, whether you're using us or not. And these are the conventions that we use and strive to make our product be the best that it can be. So I'm really excited about all these features that are coming out. If you want to hear more about logs, you've got Matt Colmone and Mike Neville-O'Neill. They both have on-demand segments that are available for you to watch. That's it for me. Seema, back to you.
Well, fellow data nerds, that's a wrap for our Day 2 keynotes. What an amazing and inspiring lineup of speakers. From Kubernetes powerhouses like Kelsey Hightower to the inside scoop on exciting new innovations for the New Relic One platform from our leadership team. It's been an incredible morning. Thank you to our speakers, partners, and customers for sharing your knowledge and best practices with us. And thank you to our FutureStack sponsors, AWS, Forum, GitHub, Diginomica, and Major League Hacking. Now it's time to build on all of this Keynote goodness with snackable sessions and hands-on workshops. As a reminder, all of the FutureStack sessions will be available for on-demand viewing so you can watch at your own pace. We'll cover a range of topics today, from observability as code, to alerting best practices, to observability for chaos engineering. And because we all know that Zoom fatigue is real, we've also got a sensory room and an energy room with DJs, as well as a guided yoga session if you need to carve out 30 minutes to find your zen. The last thing I'll leave you with is a reminder to tune in at 11:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to hear who won Future Hack 2021, our 24-hour hackathon, and see the projects from the creators themselves. I've had such a blast being your data nerd host for these 2 days of keynotes. Now let's go out and level up our observability game to help the world create more perfect software.